Why leaders in Congress, now knowing that on a daily basis, the amount of cyber attacks on American companies, on the DoD, all areas of American society, the things that are going on from the Chinese government, why aren't leaders in the Congress more doing anything about it?
So we, and this was also, part of the book, we think of national security in terms of ships and planes and tanks and soldiers and bombs and bullets. And what the Chinese Communist Party figured out is you could have all those things. But in reality, if you wanted to have geopolitical leverage in the 21st century, in the globalized, internet-powered world, then it really was about finance, economics, and information. And so what do? They essentially built, they not only built their ports up, they bought the ports that they wanted to build up. They built all the commercial shipping, bought it all. Underground, undersea cables, infrastructure everywhere, the ability to really control the flow of goods everywhere. And then the other thing they did is they created a fort, I call it Fortress China, where they, in a digital sense, they created the Great Firewall. And so what they recognized
So what does
was
that mean, the Great Firewall?
So you have essentially what they realize is globalization and the internet, if allowed to go unchecked, would allow for openness.
Okay.
Again, that's what Tiananmen Square taught them. So they built the Great Firewall to make sure that they could control their digital citizens. Now, we in the West, we were focused on the Middle East for, we've been there for decades, and we lost the fact that totalitarians could take data, right, and aggregate it and begin to use it in ways that we weren't prepared to with. So now, it's not, hey, democracy flows through digital wires. It's totalitarianism can flow the opposite direction. So they created in a sense, a diode. Science, technology, capital, and information could go into China, but none of the values, none of the culture, none of the rule of law or democratic principles could come in. But then all of the kind of the principles that they wanted, the censorship, the suppression of speech, the suppression of religion, could begin to flow out. And the way that worked is the more economic and financial relationships that you cultivated in your both allies and adversaries, the easier it was to get them on your side to enable this activity, to the point where today, they're essentially perfecting, in a digital sense, the ability to do social control, not just in their own country, but export it abroad. And the way you export it abroad, as I say, as I write in the book, there's a really good example, a case study. Roy Jones, who worked for Marriott Corporation in their social media department, likes a tweet about Tibet. The Shanghai Tourism Bureau finds out, Chinese Communist Party calls Marriott Corporation, says fire Roy Jones and apologize, and they did. And so if you look at corporate behavior today, because they're so, because their fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders is you have to go after that market of 1.4 billion, that pool gives a lot of leverage over the Chinese Communist Party over corporate behavior. So when that globalization just becomes about the Chinese model, which was it's just about free trade, but it's not really free trade. It's about open markets, and that's what Xi Jinping says when he goes to Davos. But you suppress all the principles of that open system that was in the Atlanta Charter. Then you create this kind of dystopian world that we're beginning to see emerge, not just within China, and the people of Hong Kong recognize it, but here in our own country, right? So that's really what the digital part of this is about.